So I want to thank you all for coming to our session. Keep moving, keeping fit. So I wanted to, my name is Sandy Cooprat, and I am with NYU, and I'm here to be the moderator for our session. I'm going to introduce our first esteemed
She means steamed.
speaker, who you all probably know very well, is Lynette Tatum. So Lynette Tatum is an assistive technology trainer, and she's also the founder of InfoShare, a group dedicated to providing information on all aspects of blindness and vision impairment. Topics include technology, fitness and health, culture activities, and advocacy. Lynette also continues to perform in several cabarets and shows in the New York City area. So Lynette, our multi-talented staff here at CCVIP, the floor is yours.
Well, thank you. Actually, the chair too, but you know. I just want to say that if anybody thought this was the pole dancing demonstration, that will be held after you've had the wine this afternoon. So I invite you to that. Well, how do I begin? I learned how to ride a bike in a small parking lot at what used to be called the New York Institute for the Education of the Blind. It is up in the Bronx. And I was taught how to ride by a woman who was pretty close to being total herself and another student. They just turned, they got on the back and, I pedaled and then they let go. Okay? And you know what? It is so true that you never forget how to ride. And I'm here to talk to you today a little bit about the In Tandem Bike program. We started out as a part of the Achilles. Some of you may know the Achilles. They do. I think Eliza will say something about that, correct? Mm-hmm. All right, so I won't. But we're no longer a part of Achilles. We're sort of out on our own as In Tandem Bike. And our website is intandembike.org. Okay, where do I begin? There's so much. When I got on a tandem for the first time, Maria received an email. And she said, oh, Lynn, they're having a tandem. Do you want it? And I thought, oh, my God. Because let me tell you, folks, let's go back just a little bit. You really don't want two visually impaired people to ride single bikes. You really don't. And I have a couple of stories for you. I have one in particular. We used to ride in Riverside Park. Beautiful ride. One day, however,
On our own bike.
on the single bikes, yes. And thank you. And one day, Maria fell, and I fell right over her on the bike. So we got up, and like two fools, we started snickering. Because it was just so ridiculous on our part, Here we were, we thought we were pretty good riders, And we start leaving the park. And of course, this being New York, who says it's that large? Somebody saw us who knows us in the music area. And they said, well, I was going to help you, but you got up and you started laughing. So, that's how our whole biking experience has been. You basically, if you fall down, you get back up. There was one more story. Yes.
The lake.
Okay. We rode in Central Park, and we had she wasn't a guide, but she kind of befriended us for this moment in time. And she rode a single bike, we were riding our single bikes, and my bike got out of my control. And I don't know if you know the lake up at the top of the park. There's a lovely lake that you can walk around, 110. Is it a reservoir? I didn't know it was that huge, but it could be.
Yeah.
But there you go. And there's a gate, not around the whole thing, but there is a gate, thank you, around some of it. And thank heavens, because as I said, my bike got out of control, and if it hadn't been for the fence, into the drink I would have gone. So, after that, we really didn't ride for a long time. In fact, our bikes sat outside, barely covered, and then we kind of gave them away. So when we received the email about the In Tandem, we said, OMG, this is a way for us to get back on the bikes again. And that is what we did. And when we started, it was a glorious day, really. And there were 12 captains strong. And I just happened to have a captain who was an Olympic wrestler. So he was about my height, but he had a lot more strength. And a wee around we went. He did not ask whether I wanted to go quickly or slowly or anything. Get on and go. And I was, frankly, I was terrified. I'm not going to lie. I got off the bike and I was shaking, and I was sure that I would not get on a bike again. However, I don't know what won, but something possessed me. I had bike lust, if you will, to get back on that bike. And, for a while there, we would go every week. And let me just talk about the gear here. We bought our own helmets. They used to have helmets that they passed around from person to person. No. We did not care for that after a while. So we bought our own helmets and gloves. Now, I will tell you, you generally don't need the gloves so much in the spring/summer months, but OMG, we have ridden in 30-degree weather. And those gloves are just fabulous. So you can go to any bike shop. There's a very famous bicycle shop on 96th Street between Broadway and Amsterdam. I'm thinking it's still there. And that's where we got our gear. I was not about to squeeze my then plump frame into anybody's biking pants. So I just wore regular slacks. But what I learned, and I urge you, if you're going to try tandem biking, do wear pants that are close to the body, because they won't get caught in the spokes. Try to wear shoes that don't have laces, because again, they'll get caught in the gear. This used to happen to me often. Okay, touch wood, I've never been, I fell one time. We took 2 pedals and over we went. We didn't even get to go around the park at all. But I got back up, got on the bike, kept going, and it was a great ride. But, so those are some of the clothes you should wear or think about wearing. And so, in terms of safety, I know some of you might be wondering about the captains. The captains are trained by the In Tandem staff. And right now, I do believe our faithful leader is Aisha McGowan. And Matt Molina might be a close second. And I have to say, we have ridden all over New York. We've done the 5-borough bike tour, the Bronx Tour de Bronx, I think it's called. The Tour de who?
Not de France.
Yeah, not the Tour de France, no. I would ride 1 mile and I'd be happy. And the other thing is, layers, because I told you we ride in all weather.
Wow.
Yes. Okay. So when you layer, I love this new phrase that that Aisha, our captain or our leader really and captain, has coined. She says, "Layer up, folks." Okay. So I think if you are riding for the first time, they may have you sign a release form. After that, well, you know, then you'd have to get lawyered up. Okay, so we've been very, we had a drive. They made quite a bit of money. That goes towards bikes. We're getting bikes all the time. We just got some really super bikes they say they're super, Cannondale bikes. And I'm going to tell you, I have ridden on every kind of bike. I always ask them, and you should too. One thing I've learned to be is proactive as a rider. You get on the bike. If you don't want to go too fast, tell them. If the seat is too high, tell them. If it's too low, tell them. Because, it's supposed to be a pleasurable, comfortable ride where you might gain some fitness benefits. Okay? But the ride is for you. Yes. Say again?
How many miles is it?
Okay, the 5-borough is 42 miles.
Of course.
And let me tell you, ladies and gentlemen, that Verrazano Bridge is no joke. Oh my God, the wind was blowing like crazy days. And then we get back to home base, and one of our other leaders says, you know, if the wind had been 5 miles faster, they wouldn't have let you ride. So there would have gone the rest of the ride. One of the most touching rides we did, we rode down to, and we had an evening ride. Uh-oh, is that me being time's up? Oh.
No.
Okay.
You have about 5 minutes.
Okay, cool. We rode down to see to experience the new, those who could see it, the One World Trade. Yes. And we stood there, we had a moment of silence on September 11th. It was very beautiful. And then we rode back up. Our very, very recent ride, I didn't even know this existed. You know, you hear about Grant's Tomb. Well, I've never been in. Well, we rode up Riverside Drive, and that was another windy ride, folks. But at the top, we got to have a tiny tour of the museum that's up there and get a little history. Yeah. So they had busts of these generals and stuff that I wanted to touch, but you know, the guard was there, so I didn't that time. If there is intandembike.org is the website, and I'll just point you there for information on all things in tandem. And if you care to, you can hear Crazy Lynn. If you go to the press link, I actually did a spot for CBS Sunday Morning TV. Yeah, and it was nerve-wracking, but all for the cause. And we actually got some captains out of it. I got on the bike maybe 2 weeks later, and I asked, oh, how did you he said, I saw you on TV. I said, okay, well, lovely, welcome. I always thank our riders, our captains. Without them, where would we be? Splat on the ground, okay? So, do you have any questions before
I have a question.
Yes.
Well, I haven't ridden a bike since I was 12 years old, 13
Okay.
years old. I'm out of shape.
Mhm.
What's the minimum amount of miles they would do?
4.
Actually, yeah, can you repeat the question?
Yes. What is the minimum amount of miles you can do? That's 4. That's the short loop. Okay, around Central Park. Yes. You might want to, really just ride around a parking area to get started.
I think,
Um,
I just wanted to say, I
Sure.
think if you let them know, if you come during one of our rides, our
Mhm.
regular rides, on Saturdays, you could just tell them, I
Yeah.
haven't ridden for a while.
Totally.
I would just like to try it to see how much I could.
So it's Saturdays, at what
It-
time and where?
It's generally Saturday, but one of the Saturdays at 11. But we've had such horrible weather. Every week we get ride canceled. So it was really lovely to actually get to ride on the Ides of March. Okay? The Rides of March is what I'm calling it.
And where?
We rode up Riverside Drive, and
but you did it.
yeah. Oh, but you actually ride in Central Park.
All right, we have time for one more question.
Yes.
The guy in the back with your red coat, with his hand raised? Yes. Uh-huh.
Dana.
Hey.
Hey, Dana.
Would they take me right in my neighborhood in Pelham Bay Park since I live in Co-op City? Would they drive me over there?
Not at this time. I think we have 2 folks who come from, Yonkers or something, and they come down on the Metro North. So, and the bike rides used to be at about 9 or 9:30, and they've moved up to, it's 11 now, right? Or
Because they're
something like
bike
that.
paths there in Pelham
10,
Bay.
10, it's at 10, thank you, Maria.
Where do you meet?
We meet at 90th Street, it's Engineers Gate, and we generally sit Fifth Avenue, that's right.
Okay. All right, let's more questions. And actually, you know what? I'm going to ask you to hold the question, okay? At the end, we'll have like some time for some more, but we want to go into the next speaker. So hold those questions, and then we'll kind of do them at the end, okay?
Happy riding, folks.
Yeah, happy riding. So again, the main thing about Lynette, the main thing about the intandembike.org is that they are willing to kind of, if you tell them, you need to slow down, or we could do a
That's
shorter route, they will adapt that for you.
Don't let the captain boss, you, captain you.
Uh-huh.
You are the, captain in that respect.
Absolutely. So, great. Okay, so now our next speaker will be Mr. Christopher Noel.
Oh.
Christopher Noel is an ADA Accessibility Coordinator for the New York City Parks and Recreation Department. In this role, he ensures that facilities, programs, and services are accessible to people of all abilities. He's responsible for providing technical assistance to the design staff and general public. He works closely to oversee the implementation and expansion of existing adaptive programs, such as the after-school program for hearing impaired children at the Al Orchard Recreation Center. It's a New York City Parks Saturday adaptive sports program and an indoor-outdoor swim times designated for people with disabilities. As New York City Parks is committed to providing accessible facilities at parks throughout the city, Christopher ensures opportunities for recreation and participation for all New Yorkers. So let's have a warm welcome for Christopher Noel.
Okay. Good morning, everyone. All right, as mentioned, my name is Christopher Noel. I'm the Accessibility Coordinator with New York City Parks. And as you, for those who can, as you see, I'm not visually impaired, but I do have a disability. I use a wheelchair. But in a sense, I think that we're all in the same boat because we all have challenges based on our disability. And it's always a good thing to overcome those challenges in a number of ways. For us, we have a number of adaptive sport programs that we use and that we have in our recreation centers, parks, and playgrounds for people of all abilities. Now, I've been at this position for 2 years. Before this, I was at Independence Care System, Medicaid managed care program for people with disabilities of all kinds. But when the opportunity came to work with New York City Parks, to develop adaptive programs and to make sure that our parks, recreation centers, and playgrounds are more accessible for people for all abilities to enjoy, I jumped at the opportunity. I think something very fitting of me even speaking here today is the fact that we're developing a lot of our programs for people with vision impairment. Something that we really didn't do before, focus before on at parks, such as developing our goal ball and beat baseball teams. In the past, it was generally held in Long Island. And I have a good friend of mine who's someone who has a vision impairment, Matt Pavogel, who used to work for the mayor's office for people with disabilities, now works for the Office of Emergency Management. And I actually was the broadcaster / umpire for a number of their beat baseball games that they held in Central Park.
Excuse me, could you explain beat baseball?
Beat baseball. So goal ball and beat baseball are two sports. Goal ball is a sport played where you're rolling a beeping ball the size of a soccer ball, maybe a little bit about a basketball size, and you have 3 defenders. So it's 3 on 3, and basically you have to roll the ball past them to get into their goal. Now obviously to defend it, you're pretty much laying on the ground, generally on one elbow and on your hip, so that when you hear the beeping ball rolling, you're able to react. One of you or your teammates are able to react to block the ball from going in the goal. And then once you get the ball, obviously you're able to return a favor and throw the ball at them and see if they can defend it. Beep baseball is a great sport because, as everyone knows, baseball is America's pastime, favorite pastime. So the fact that people with vision impairments can actually play beep baseball is a great thing. Beep baseball is basically similar to baseball. You have a first base and a third base. But when you hit the ball, as in regular baseball, you don't have to run automatically to first base. For this, you're running to whichever sound you hear coming from either your first base side or your third base side, meaning that's the side where you hit the ball. So if you hit the ball on your left, the third base bag is going to ring. And if you hit the ball to your right, the first base bag will ring. And what it basically is your bag is about a 4-foot pylon that's obviously covered in padding. And once you hit the ball, you have to run full steam at this pretty much pylon and tackle it so that the sound goes off. Now, when you tackle it and the sound goes off, if the team in the outfield didn't capture the ball that you just hit, which is beeping as well, then you get a run. So it's not basically about hits. You can't get a single, double, or triple in beep baseball, but each time you touch the bag, you actually score. Now, the key with beep baseball is, in regular baseball, you have your opponent pitching you the ball. In beep baseball, you actually have your own coach who's sighted pitching you the ball to where you like it. So if he knows where your sweet spot is and you can crank the ball out of the infield or outfield, that's where he's going to give it to you. And it's usually done in a cadence where he's giving you the sign saying pitch, ball. And basically, so you can have a timing effect. Because everyone who's playing on both teams, even if you have a slight visual impairment or if you're blind, you still have to wear blindfolds so that no one has an advantage over anyone else. And it's a great sport because the guys go out there, they have fun, and it's competitive. So when we're talking about ways to stay in shape, even after disability, beep baseball and goalball are two sports that we wanted to implement in terms of New York City Parks adaptive programming so that we'd be able to have more people with vision impairments participating in sports, whereas they weren't before. I think it's a great thing that we're doing, and as you know, we have a number of other sports at our recreation centers for people that are non-disabled, people that have mobility impairments. But I always was bringing to the table, what happens to people with vision impairments? We need to include them as well if we're a city agency offering programs for all New Yorkers. As John Gresham will tell you, who's sitting in our audience, he's on our community advisory board. And basically what we've done at New York City Parks, and we haven't met in a long time because of the weather, so we are meeting soon, and I'll get an email from you soon asking why we haven't met. But the purpose of our community advisory board is so that no one is left out of the loop when it comes to programming for any of our recreation centers, parks, or playgrounds. If they have a concern about their accommodation not being met or being addressed at any point, this is a time they can come to the meeting and address those concerns with us. And then obviously it's my job as the accessibility coordinator to make sure that their concerns are taken into account and we do something to make it better. As I mentioned before, my disability isn't necessarily a visual impairment, but it's still a disability. So I would like to be included in everything that someone who's non-disabled might be included in. I wouldn't want to be left out of the mix. So it's part of my job to make sure that all disabilities are accounted for when we're developing these programs and also when we're doing any modifications to our recreation centers. For example, it's obviously a different impairment, but we have at our Arsenal location, we have a lot of public speakers come in. And there was a gentleman and his wife who had a hearing impairment. And basically, they wanted to attend the event. So what we had to arrange was a cart system and as well as a ASL sign language interpreter. The reason being is because we wanted to make sure that their needs were addressed. Now, say it was someone who had a hearing impairment and they weren't able to follow the ASL interpreter. We wanted to make sure that we had the cart system as well as a backup, just to make sure that they were able to enjoy the speaker. And that's something, because that situation had come up, and it was something that we really never addressed before. Now we're thinking of doing the same thing when our commissioner of parks is speaking in front of a large group, especially persons with disabilities. We're going to make sure we include that. So that's part of my job, to make sure that we stay ahead of the game in terms of making sure everyone is accommodated when we're doing something publicly. And I like that because as an advocate myself, I could just go to myself to make these changes versus going to someone who might not understand the needs of someone with a disability, of various disabilities. By me having a disability myself, it makes it kind of easier to understand other disabilities and make sure their needs are addressed. And also, a quick question to allude back to the first speaker, I just got an email about the in-tandem biking, and that's something we're looking to implement as well. I got it maybe a few days ago. So it's actually great to actually meet you because that's something we like to do as well, to give opportunities for people with vision impairments, an opportunity to just enjoy our parklands and enjoy the opportunity to stay fit and in shape by doing a number of sports or outside activities.
That sounds good.
Yeah.
Actually, I have some questions.
Sure. Yep. You go.
After you make contact with the ball,
Mhm.
how many feet do you have to run approximately to the pile?
Okay, her question was, when the ball is hit, how many feet do you have to run before you hit the pylon? How far is the base? I would say it's about 40 feet.
Chris, it's 100 feet.
It's 100. It's 100 feet. Oh wow, that's a lot longer than I thought. That's pretty good for the amount of hits I've seen and runs scored. Oh wow, that's pretty impressive. I thought it was a shorter distance than that. So 100 feet. Thank you for
It's a
that.
very long way. I used to play for my high school team in Throughout, and I would love to start playing again. How
Okay.
do you follow the
Mhm.
path along?
Mhm.
I do have some sight like,
Mhm,
but
mhm.
if everybody's blindfolded,
Exactly,
you just
yeah.
took away my little bit of sight.
Yeah, but that's key.
Messed me up. So how do I,
Yeah.
how do I,
Yeah.
like, get down the line
To the ball. Well, actually,
to the pylon?
yeah. So her question is basically, how does she find the base after she hits the ball if her vision is completely impaired by the blindfold? And the reason you are blindfolded is so that you don't have an advantage over someone else who might be blind.
I understand that.
But
that's
yeah,
not-
yeah. So basically, you would just follow the sound. The sound is it's a ee. So if you can hear that and you hear where I'm at right now, you would just come and tackle me. So basically, if I was the pylon, then you. But that's how. Yes.
I have a question.
I have my hand up.
Oh yes, yes. You go, sir, and then you're next. Yes.
Okay. My question is there hiking in the New York City parks or your neighborhood park if there's hiking trails?
Yes, in a number of parks, especially in the Bronx, we do have a number of natural trails.
Pelham Bay Park?
Yes, Pelham Bay Park.
Clove Lake Park too? Clove Lake Park, Staten Island?
Sure, if it's a city park. We have a lot of groups that go out. A lot of times you would, if you're doing a big event, you would need to get a permit, just so that we don't have a number of groups. If you're having a special event per se, I would always check with our permitting department. But we have a number of natural trails that many people hike on. So I would definitely encourage it.
I can get a volunteer?
To assist you?
Yes, to hike?
Well, parks necessarily wouldn't provide you with one. If you're coming with a group that would provide one, that would be fine. But what we do is, if you're looking to host an event for people with vision impairment, and you want to bring them to one of our natural trails, then what we'll do is the park administrator can sometimes get park staff organized so that we can assist you. But it's not something, whereas if you go hiking without prior notice, we'll have someone there to help you, assist you,
Well, why can't
because we have a number of trails.
advocate to say I want to get someone to help me and talk to you since you're an advocate?
Mhm.
Try to arrange for somebody to help me do the hiking.
Sure. That could be an option down the line. It's something we would have to explore, because that would mean having a staff member dedicated to whoever calls that line, and that might mean many calls or many staff members needed to do that trail. But that's something that we can always take into account and look into further in terms of providing an aid to go up that natural trail. So that's something we'll take into account. So thank you for that question. Hang on. We have the gentleman right here. Yes.
My name is Paul. How you doing, Lynette?
Hey.
Good.
Question I have is, what age groups do you work with? And can parents find you on the web so they can get involved in something like that?
Sure. Well, and his question was, what age groups do we use, and can parents be involved? Yes to both questions. I actually just spoke to, I was at the Lighthouse Guild. We did a presentation, and I was speaking to 6 to 13-year-olds with vision impairments. And they were so psyched about more so beat baseball and goal ball. They think goal ball is kind of boring because it's more of a defensive game in goal ball, whereas beat baseball is more offensive. You know, you just want to be able to hit the ball and score a run. That's kind of exciting. So I would say we would start anywhere from age 6 to adult. And yes, parents are definitely encouraged to attend and be involved, even if it's volunteering.
How do they find
Yep.
you? Yeah.
Well, I would say before we go today, if you'd like, you can leave me your email address. That way we can put you on our email blast list. And that way you'll be able to find information. Because with Gold Ball, we're actually going to start that probably in the beginning of May. So we would definitely want to have everyone in the community involved. No problem. We have this young lady in front and then John next.
Yeah, and
Yep.
then that's it for questions.
Okay, yep.
Can I ask my question?
Yes.
Okay, yeah. What other kind of programs does the park have? Like, do they have any programs like swimming in the parks, pools for people with vision loss? Or how about horseback riding? Or there's some adaptive horseback riding? And then for walking tours for people with vision loss? Or also, like, they have the blind road runners group in Central Park. But I live near Prospect Park, and there are people from other boroughs. Do they have any events?
Okay, so I would say,
in the spring?
yep, so her questions would be, do we have adaptive sports? Do we do adaptive aquatics? And do we do walking tours?
Right.
I would say yes to all of the above.
And horseback.
And horseback riding. So we do horseback riding, therapeutic horseback riding in the Bronx at Pelham Bay Park. We do adaptive walking in our neighborhoods at McCarran Recreation Center in Williamsburg, Brooklyn. We do a number of adaptive aquatics at our outdoor pools and indoor pools. It's called adapted aquatics. And that's where you're not swimming with a bunch of people that are all around the pool doing lap swims or what have you. We designate specific time for people with disabilities to use the pool so that there aren't so many people using the pool at one time where you become distracted or not able to have the space to swim with your disability, where you might need a little bit more space and not have tons of people swimming around you might confuse you. So I would say yes to all of the above. And we also do other adaptive sports for other people with disabilities, such as wheelchair basketball, softball. We do things for people with developmental disabilities as well. So we try to add a complete program, and I have brochures here as well if you would want to take. But we try to make sure that all disabilities are accommodated. So just as the gentleman asked about the having an aide to help assist with a hiking trail, that's a great suggestion. So what I'm going to do is bring it back to the office and see how we can make that happen. Maybe it's something we do on weekends
Can I get your
where we have a
email?
group. Yes, well, it'll give you my email address and I'll get yours as well.
Great.
And that's something how even the adaptive walk started in Brooklyn. We had a group of teens with developmental disabilities, one person with a visual impairment as well, and said they wanted to do walking tours around Brooklyn. So we actually do that out of our Brooklyn McCarran Recreation Center in Williamsburg, Brooklyn. So if you like, once you give me your email address, and I'll give you mine, you can always email me, and then I could put you in contact with that recreation center, the person who does it.
Okay.
Yep, John? Yep, next.
All right, so
well,
yeah.
here's one more slide.
Could we hold the questions for the end? So if you have the questions, and then yeah, because we have one more speaker to talk. All right, so hold those thoughts, hold those questions for the end. So our third and final speaker is Miss Eliza Cooper. Eliza is pursuing a master's degree in social organizational psychology at Columbia University. She also has been working as a social media and tech consultant in New York City for the past 4 years. But when she is not studying or working, Eliza enjoys training for triathlons and running races. Since 2009, she has completed 4 half marathons, 7 triathlons, and plans to attempt her first full marathon this year. Eliza believes that training and racing can truly change lives and has changed hers in extremely positive ways. So, warm welcome for Eliza, everybody.
Thanks. So I'm here mainly to talk about Achilles, which I think a lot of people in the city have heard about. And Achilles is an international organization. It has chapters all over the world, but it's headquartered here. And I, by the way, do not work for them, so I'm talking to you as just a member. So do not quote me. But
Probably a better person.
but I've been involved in the New York chapter for over 4 years now, and I grew up outside of Los Angeles, and I was involved in the LA chapter when I was a teenager. So I have a lot of experience with them. And what they do is they allow, they enable people with all sorts of disabilities to participate in any kind of running race, and in New York, in triathlons. So they were started by a man who was the first amputee to run in the New York City Marathon back in the 70s. And so the majority of members these days are people who are visually impaired, though we do have a lot of people who use hand cycles or wheelchairs. We have people who are amputees. We have people who are who have brain injuries. So it's a really great variety. Most people go to our workouts that are twice a week in Central Park. They start at 90th and 5th Avenue. On Tuesday nights and Saturday mornings. Tuesday nights at 6, Saturdays at 10. And basically, it's the great thing about Achilles is it's all up to you. So when you go to a workout, you say, I feel like walking today, maybe just for a couple miles, maybe for just 10 minutes, whatever you want. Or you can run 10 miles because you're crazy. And so it's all catered to what you feel like doing. So they go around and ask each member how far they want to run and how fast. And then they announce it to the group, and you are paired up with anyone who's a volunteer who feels like doing that distance and speed with you. So you'll get at least one volunteer who has guided before. And you might get some new volunteers. There are always new people who volunteer with Achilles, and some of them come back for years, and some of them come once in a while. So it's a great way to meet new people and kind of build friendships over time. So what happens is, if you are, I'm going to go mostly from the visually impaired perspective, but when you are a visually impaired runner, you are matched with someone who will be your guide. And generally, how they guide you is up to you, but generally they run next to you, and you use some kind of either rope or kind of flexible belt or something so that you can each hold onto one end, and you can track where they're going, and they can help you figure out how wide a turn to take or where to go. And that's pretty much it. Other than that, they communicate with you. So they say, okay, it's, there's a hill, or this winter really screwed up the road, so there are a lot of potholes right now. So they let you know about that kind of thing. And then usually, at the workouts, you'll have more than one person, so the other person might be up ahead if it's really crowded, kind of clearing the way. And that's also the formation we use during races. If you're in any kind of running race, you generally have one guide up ahead kind of moving people out of the way, and then one running with you. So I joined a few years ago to do a bike race, one of the 5 borough bike tours. So I started by doing those when Achilles still did those. And I had done tandem biking as a kid, and so that's what I knew how to do. When that would be my dog. In high school, I swam on my school swim team, and I ran track for a little bit. So I knew how to do other sports, but I mainly did biking here. But one day, one of my coworkers told me about the triathlon team, and the tri team is pretty much specific to New York City right now. And I knew how to swim, so I asked if I could go to one of their workouts, and I did. And at the end, one of our leaders pulled me aside and said, excuse me, why aren't you running? And why aren't you swimming with us? And I said, oh, I don't know. Like, I haven't really trained for either of those. And she said, yeah, you're going to do a triathlon. And I said, well, that's crazy. I don't know how to, that's a lot. What? And she said, well, you can definitely do it. Anyone can do it if you train. And she said, also, we don't really have that many women on our team. And that got me because I'm a very competitive person. And once I was like, oh, wait, there aren't very many women even competing in triathlons who are blind, well, then now I have to do it because that means I could do well. And so that's what started. And so I've done 7 of them now. We do triathlons around the tri-state area, and because it's a fairly small pool of people with disabilities, a lot of us win awards in our division because we train well. And last summer I did my longest race yet, which was a half Ironman. And that is and so that was a 1.2 mile swim, followed by a 56-mile bike ride, followed by a half marathon. And I did that in Maine, and I did it with one of the guides that I'd been training with. And so it was great because it's always a team effort, right? You never feel like you're all on your own trying to figure out how to train. It's all about the community, and that's why I really like Achilles. So my guide for my half Ironman works on Wall Street and was never, around during the week to train. So I would train with a couple of the other guides. And usually it was because they were going to go swim anyway. So I would just tag along, and it wasn't that big a deal for them to just swim in front of me or do what I needed. So it's always been amazing because it's mutually beneficial. And the main thing that I've gotten out of Achilles is that when people volunteer to guide, they start off coming to Achilles because they want to do something for others, they want to maybe do something that's selfless, but over time, the people who are dedicated, it becomes less about them doing something good for you and more about a community. And so the differences between you kind of disappear, and that's what's really beautiful about it. Couple other things. I mentioned a minute ago that one of our leaders said that anyone can do a triathlon, anyone can do a race. And that's really true, because there's no one says you have to do a half Ironman. I mean, that's just if you're crazy. However, we do have two of our tri-team members have each done over 5 full Ironman races, and they're both over age 60. And both of them started after age 50. So I'm just saying. There's these, I mean, it's all about what you want to do. And what you kind of learn pretty quickly is that working out, going for a run, going for a swim makes you feel really good. And it's kind of addictive.
Yes.
So if you want to just, have a way to take a walk outside and enjoy the spring, you can do that. If you want to train to run and you want to actually maybe do a 5K race, which is 3 miles, or maybe a 10K, or maybe a half marathon, you can do any of those, because there's no pressure by anyone to reach a certain goal. It's all about what makes you feel good. So I'm just going to make sure I mentioned everything. But I think, those are my main points. Can I answer any questions for you?
You have a question in the front over here?
Eliza, it's Maria.
Yes.
I used to love to watch the Ironman and the different races on TV, and of course those are all sighted people. But so I'm wondering, when you have to do the swimming, how you do it with someone, and how do you keep track, or how do you keep track with each other? So that they let you know your partner. I guess you swim with someone.
Yes.
Please repeat the question.
So she was asking about swimming in a half Ironman or any kind of open water swim race. That sort of depends on you. We have some people who can see enough, maybe they have enough peripheral that they don't use any kind of tether or attach to other. Well, what I do is I use these belts they're racing belts. They're what if you do a race, you attach your bib number to them, so they're kind of like flexible, stretchy, sort of I guess nylon-ish sort of material. And what we do is we each wear one around our waist, and then we have a couple attached in between us, so we still swim next to each other. I will say the swim is the hardest part. It just is, because there's a current and you don't swim straight, you're swimming into them and you have to push each other away sometimes. It takes getting used to. But it totally works, and you practice together and you're able to do it.
You swim in the ocean?
Yeah, so sometimes yes. For my half Ironman, I did. It was just out off the coast of Portland, Maine, and that was that took me. It was cold, so we wear full wetsuits. Yeah, I can give you a few more details about how the actual.
Yeah, actually, Eliza, for mere mortals, do they have do they have partners like in a New York City pool or something where you could be tethered to somebody in a pool?
So in the pool, generally, what we do is we swim right behind or right in front of our guides, because we do share the pool with mere mortals. So we do need to pay attention to where people are, either swimming laps in front of us or around us. So I like to have my guide in front of me, so if we need to slow down, I'm going to hit them and not some guy I don't know. So there I don't use a tether, and no one tends to do that, but out in the open water we do.
I have a question right here.
Yeah, hi Liz. Ken, for this Tuesday evening and Saturday morning Central Park runs, is there a place for people to leave their street clothes?
Yes, thanks. Yeah, so usually, we meet up as a whole at the park, but if you do want to come from work and change or leave stuff, we meet up at the New York Roadrunners building, which is on 89th Street between Madison and 5th. And so, most of us do that. Most of us come from other places and leave stuff there.
Another question in the back?
Yeah, I just have a question. If you use a guide dog, what do you do with your guide dog while you're doing this? Because obviously you need to use the guide dog to get to Central Park. So what happens?
I do a variety of things. I'm super picky about who my dog is with and when, so I tend to leave her in the Roadrunners Club. But a lot of people do have volunteers. There are volunteers who will take them for a little walk or watch over them while you run. So whatever you're comfortable with. Some people choose to not bring them, but you can totally bring them and do either of those things. And there's
Crates there for them, or
no.
tied down, or?
No, it's just a regular building. So there's I attach her in a corner. There's a railing to a stairway where she's out of the way, and people will help you figure out what the best option is. I also don't want to forget to mention, for the woman in the front, I don't know your name, but I've heard that they just started a Brooklyn chapter, which is kind of awesome since I used to live near Prospect Park and now I don't. Now they have a Brooklyn chapter. So if you want to find out more information, I would contact Achilles, and the Achilles International website, I think, is just achillesinternational.org. And Achilles is Achilles.
If anybody wants a brochure, raise your hand and I'll give
we
you
do.
one.
I brought
Okay,
some
for
brochures
Achilles.
that are not brailled, sorry. Oh, just one other note before I end. Another thing that you might want to Google or check out is last year I went cross country skiing for the first time, And there's a similar organization, kind of similar to Achilles, which is called Ski for Light. And yes, and it's also international, and they do skiing trips all over the country and all over the world. I would definitely look them up if you're interested in trying cross-country skiing.
Do you have any brochures and
But I just want to say thank you all for coming for this session. Thank you to the presenters for being a part of this.
Thank you.
You know what, and, all right, so we're going to head on back to the main room after this, okay?
Yes.
Yes, thank you.